In case you missed it, I've been really addicted to making these fabric bookmarks. Hey friends, welcome back to my sewing room. My name is Becca, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful fabric bookmark to hold your page in your favorite book. Take a look down here. These fabric bookmarks are really cute little squares of fabric. They're made with 3 different pieces of fabric, and you have a pocket in here that you can use to hold the corner of a page that you would like to mark. So what I usually do is something like this. When the fabric bookmark is on the corner of the page, you can see that the book lays nice and flat, and visually you can see exactly where you are. It's not adding any extra bulk to your book, and it's not marking or bending your pages in any way. Plus, who doesn't like a little pop of color of their favorite fabric when they're flipping through their book? It's a win-win, right? To make these, you're going to need 3 squares of your favorite fabric. I have chosen to use some of my scraps from the Dusk to Dawn Batiks from Monique Jacobs, and then you also need some SF 101 interfacing. For the fabric, you want to cut these at 4 inches square, and for the interfacing, you want to cut that at 3.5 inches square. You need 3 pieces of fabric and 3 pieces of interfacing. Now that third square of interfacing that you cut, you're going to cut on the diagonal to get a triangle out of it, and you'll see why in just a minute. You only need one of the triangles, so the other one you can set aside, and if you decide to make a second bookmark, you can use it for that one. If you don't know what SF101 is, this is a lightweight fusible interfacing. One side is smooth and the other side is a little bumpy, a little bit scratchy. That bumpy side is where all the glue is, and the idea here is that you take the bumpy side and you put it onto the wrong side of your fabric and you apply heat. That heat causes all those little bumps to melt and hold on to the fabric. This SF101 gives your fabric a little bit of body and helps the bookmark be a little bit more rigid so it's not so flimsy and floppy on your pages. Could you make it without SF101? Sure. Could you make it with quilt batting or fusible fleece? Probably. I'm going to use SF101 because that is my interfacing of choice for these, but you do whatever works for you. Before I show you how to make this, I do want to let you know that the size I'm making will finish at about 3.5 inches square, but you can customize this any way that works for you. If you want something a little bit bigger or maybe something a little bit smaller, that's fine. Here's the formula that you need to remember. Your fabric squares always need to be cut a 1/2 inch bigger than your interfacing. So if you decide you just want to use charm packs to make some fabric bookmarks and you don't want to do any subcutting, you're going to have a bunch of 5-inch squares, which means for your interfacing, you're going to cut 4.5 inch squares from your interfacing. I've made them big, I've made them small. You do whatever works for you. I will tell you that the smaller ones, though, can be a little hard to get your fingers in there to turn them inside out. So that's a little tip from me to you. Let me show you how to make these. The first thing that you need to do is take a look at your fabrics and figure out which piece you want to be your little pocket, your little triangle. And for that, I'm going to use this one. So you're going to pick that up and you're going to fold it wrong sides together right along the diagonal. From corner to corner, wrong sides are going together, the right side should be on the outside. Now, because I am using batiks, there's not really a wrong side to my fabric, so just be careful if you're not using batiks or solids that you're paying close attention to what is the wrong side versus the right side in your project. Once I have this finger pressed, I'm going to open it back up and I'll be able to see the crease that's running from one corner to the other corner. I'm going to grab my triangle of SF101 interfacing. I'm going to line up this long edge with that folded crease in the middle, and then I'm going to try to center it so it's an even distance away from these 2 sides, and then I'm going to fold it back over. It doesn't matter whether the interfacing is up or down because I don't care which side the glue adheres to, just that the glue adheres to the fabric. So we've got the SF101 enclosed in my little triangle sandwich. I'm going to bring my iron in, and I'm just going to apply some heat to this to get all those glue bumps to melt down and really grab onto my fabric. It's going to be a little hot, so we'll set that aside and let it cool. The next step is to take the other 2 squares of fabric, take our 2 SF101 pieces, and center it on the wrong side, bumpy side down, to our little fabric squares. So the smooth side is up. On your interfacing, we're going to take our heat and just glide that over the SF-101. This is going to cause all those glue bumps to melt down, and it's going to add some body to our fabric. You're literally almost done. I'm going to place the back side right side up. I'm going to place my pocket in the middle so that I've got the fold running along the diagonal in between, and then I'm going to place my top side right side down. And now I've got my little bookmark sandwich. I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch around all 4 sides, but I do need to leave a gap so I can reach in here and turn this right side out. So what I like to do is on either side, there's 2 sides that don't have the extra 2 layers from your corner. That's where I like to leave my opening. So I'm going to start probably about an inch-ish from the bottom on this side here. I'm going to back stitch, go all the way around, and when I come over here, I'm going to leave about a 2-inch-ish gap on this side. I'm going to back stitch here too. By back stitching, when I'm going around all 4 sides, that is allowing me to secure my stitches. So when I reach my hands into that opening or that gap, I'm going to be putting some stress on the seam, but because it's back stitched, the seams won't pop as easily. Now I've got this sewn around all 4 sides. I'm going to grab a pair of scissors and I'm going to snip my corners. I'm going to be very careful to get close to my seam, but not cut through the threads from my sewing. And then since I've got my snips, I'll just go ahead and cut off any loose threads from where I back stitched at the start and stop of that seam, just because then I don't have to worry about them coming through when I turn this right side out. This next step is optional. I like to take a minute just to fold the seam back so it's right up against that stitching line on both pieces of fabric. And this allows me to kind of get my seam rolled so that my 2 pieces of fabric, when they're folded together, match perfectly. And then to just kind of set that memory for the fibers, I'll grab an iron and glide it over that seam. I'll press it open now so I don't have to deal with it later. Once the fabric is cooled off enough for us to touch, we're going to reach inside of our pocket. We're going to grab the bulk of the seam on the opposite corner and we're just going to start shoving it through. So we're turning this right side out. Now, if I have this little fabric, my little corner fabric, if it's up against the wrong accent, I'm just going to take a minute to flip it where I want it to be. Then I'm going to take a little pointing tool. I'm using a point turner. It's a bamboo point turner. And you're going to poke out all 4 of those corners. Be careful when you're doing this to not push through the fabric. Be firm, but be gentle. Once you have all 4 corners turned out, then we're going to stitch along 2 of the sides of this. You could stitch all 4 sides if you'd like to, but I actually like the way it looks and lies in the book when I only stitch these 2 edges. So I'm going to fold this up out of the way, going to my sewing machine, and I'm going to start stitching on that purple fabric that I have. I'm going to back stitch the first stitch or 2. I'm going to come all the way down. This is with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to pivot at that bottom corner and come across the bottom and back stitch there. And voila, there you have a beautiful fabric bookmark ready to gift or to be used. If you want to make it lay super nice and flat, here's the tip that I have for you. Apply some heat to it to get all of those layers really super flat. Make sure to get it nice and hot, and then grab a clapper or any other heavy surface, a dictionary, a phone book. Do you remember what those were? And set it on top of your project. This will allow the fabric to cool in a super flat position, which will make it extra flat when you're ready to use it. That's it. Super easy make, right? Thank you so much for watching the tutorial today, friends, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye!